Students in the sample class who exhibit negative behavioral problems once a week or more will qualify for Tier 2 small group processes. Tier 1 observation recording will consist of social emotional learning goals and objectives integrated into every lesson taught throughout the school year. Lesson objectives met or not met by all students will be recorded by the teacher. For Tier 2 observation recording, teachers will use 2 observation forms for data collection on Tier 2 students. The first will be done by recording the small group process progress in a chart that includes task success, adherence to pre-corrections, responsible decision-making, positive social skills used, social skills that are in need of improvement with advice on how to improve, and students' participation in 2x10 strategies. For the second, teachers will record observations of Tier 2 students' social emotional competencies during whole group instructions. Students in Tier 3 will also have the same observation form for teachers to observe social emotional competencies during whole group instruction. In addition to this observation, students will self-report on social emotional competency progress once a week through journaling about what was learned in small group processes, opinions about mindfulness practices learned that week, feelings of competence and success in the 5 core social emotional competencies. As needed, students in Tier 3 will also self-report on conflict or disruptive events after meeting and discussing these events with the teacher. Students will self-report on conflict or disruptive events by journaling about the following: identify emotions, brainstorm ways to express or process those emotions without harming self or others, and the restorative justice practices that were used for addressing the conflict and disruptive behavior. They will also journal about the perspectives of others and reflect on their own actions. For the exit survey, students will self-report in the last month of school in a way that will gauge student self-efficacy of the 5 core social emotional competencies. The survey includes questions about feelings of competency in the 5 areas with a rating scale that includes always, almost always, sometimes, almost never, and never. For the study procedures, case studies will be used to provide representation of the qualitative data through the combined picture that students with ACEs screening and exit survey provides, along with the anecdotal information presented by students' self-reporting journal work. Trends in discipline and disruption tracking will assist in the examination of progress students have made in the effortful use of the 5 core social emotional competencies. Comparing the control and sample class will results in discipline and disruption tracking will indicate whether behavioral trends in the sample class can be attributed to the social emotional reconditioning. Additionally, the comparison of both initial ACEs screening surveys and the exit surveys will provide support for the effects of the social emotional reconditioning program. Finally, this research will facilitate drawing conclusions that answer the research question: what are the effects of social emotional reconditioning on elementary students with adverse childhood experiences as measured through case studies in a longitudinal ethnographic analysis? The likeliness of the positive impact of the program on students with ACEs and their coping skills will be indicated by the previously mentioned study procedures and data analysis. This evidence can be compared with studies that use a universal approach to social emotional learning with similar student demographics to reveal the variations of effects between the compared program implementation strategies. There are 4 main areas of concern for ethical considerations in this study. Parental permission may be hard to achieve if students are to be reporting trauma involving parents, such as abuse and neglect or homelessness and poverty. For this reason, these major adverse childhood experiences are removed to increase the likelihood of parental permission. Students' self-reporting on ACEs is also an area to consider, as some students may not want to disclose this information. That is the reason why the survey also includes questions about emotional states. Another ethical consideration is teacher implementation and supports. Teachers will need large amounts of support and opportunities for conference with the researchers due to the conditions of the implementation and observation being completely within the responsibility of the teachers. Additionally, this could be an ethical concern, as many teachers already report a lack of time for implementing social-emotional learning curriculum. The buy-in for teachers to implement this program is the way that the curriculum aims to reduce time spent on discipline and disruption in the classroom, as well as improving social and academic performance. Cultural adaptations are also under ethical examination, as these are left to the discretion of the teacher. This is why extensive guidelines and structure for these adaptations are provided. This study is relevant to the needs of today's students. In the light of the racial and cultural tensions in the United States that have been exacerbated in 2020, both cultural adaptations and trauma sensitivity are practices that are now considered best practices in the classroom to serve students' needs. As revealed in the 2018 study by Brown, Magan, and Buren, previously mentioned, there is a deficiency of action research studies that have implemented social-emotional learning cultural adaptations in practice. This area of concern is only addressed in theory. This study is crucial to help pave the way for the cultural adaptations in social-emotional learning curriculum in a self-contained environment. A self-contained environment is the best tool for implementation, as teachers can provide real-time adaptation to students' cultural needs, and this also provides additional motivation for teachers to learn more about students' cultural norms, expectations, and needs. Also, in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, students are experiencing unprecedented rates of anxiety, lack of social connection, fear, loneliness, isolation, hunger, homelessness, mental illness of an adult in the home, parental job loss, and many more adverse childhood experiences, more than can possibly be listed. The removal from the social complex of school will impair natural social-emotional learning in elementary students, along with the collective trauma these young students have experienced. Self-contained classroom programs can be developed to mitigate the toxic stress from the pandemic and from other ACEs, and these will be crucial programs in the future. The study will pave the way for such research and implementation. As a future teacher, I have insight to what the needs of teachers will be in the wake of 2020. I know I will need programs in place to assist me in the social-emotional reconditioning of my students who lost over a year of social interactions at school. I know that no universal program, social, emotional, academic, or otherwise, can be applied and expected to have consistent results because students' needs are diverse. This study will provide research-based curriculum that has built-in differentiation strategies through the use of a multi-tiered system of supports approach and strategies for cultural adaptations. Future research would benefit both students and educators by providing more proof of the importance of social-emotional learning curriculum implementation from an early age, early and frequent screening for ACEs, and the ways that multi-tiered system of supports can provide intervention for social and emotional problems at young ages. Additionally, strategies such as group processes and mindfulness practices used in the curriculum for this study should be more extensively explored. Healthcare providers and law enforcement practitioners have ample reason to invest in this study and similar future studies because of the negative effects ACEs has on social, emotional, cognitive, and physical health. The study of how to facilitate the attrition of these effects can lead to future exploration on the impact the attrition of ACEs and associated negative effects can have on legal, health, and mental health systems and services, especially in low socioeconomic status areas. Let's take a moment to imagine how Alex's story will end up. Without intervention, the likelihood of Alex repeating his parents' lifestyle habits, which is already indicated by his behavior that mirrors theirs in the classroom, is very high. Additionally, Alex needs assistance in developing healthy coping mechanisms and ways to express his thoughts and emotions. Through a program such as that in this study, Alex can learn how to strengthen his social-emotional competencies, adapt conflict resolution strategies, and learn mindfulness practices that can assist him with becoming more successful socially, emotionally, behaviorally, and academically, both inside the classroom and out. I want to leave you with this quote by the trauma survivor, inspirational speaker, and author Joyce Meyer. "If you can help a child, you don't have to spend years repairing an adult." That is essentially the entire idea behind what guided this research. Thank you so much for your time and for listening.